Hey everyone, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More. Welcome to another one of my real estate investing videos. Today we're going to talk about analyzing a rental property. Some quick things to look at, how to figure out if it's a good rental property or one you should pass on. So we're going to talk about cash flow, buying below market value, cash on cash return, and some other factors like location, age, things like that. All right, now of course check out investformore.com for much more information on rentals, flipping, being a landlord, being an agent, wholesaling, all kinds of good stuff. And I have 8 books as well on Amazon that go into detail on this. Build a Rental Property Empire is the book that really goes into detail, tells you all you need to know about rentals. We've sold like 30,000 copies, something like that, I think. So it's an audio book, paperback, ebook, all that good stuff on Amazon. All right, how to analyze a rental property. Now, I have 23 rentals, I believe. I bought 27 total. The first 16 I bought were residential rentals. The last 10, 11 I bought were commercial rental properties. We're gonna talk about residential rentals in this video because they're two completely different beasts. And when I say commercial, I don't mean multi-family residential. I mean strip malls, this office I'm in right now where my brokerage is, actual commercial real estate. So we'll save that for another video. Today we're talking about residential rentals. All right, so what are we gonna talk about? Cash flow, right? How to figure it the right way. Cash on cash return. Why that matters and why that's a great thing to let you know how good the rental property is. Also gonna look at equity or buying below market value, getting a great deal. Every single property I buy, household flip houses, we buy with tons of equity way below market value. And you can do it too. You don't have to be a professional to do that. It just takes some time, some perseverance, some knowledge to get good deals. And finally, the type of property, right? A lot of people ask me if they should flip or hold as a rental. And a lot of that depends on the property itself, how old it is, what kind of shape it's in, where it's at, things like that. So first off, cash flow. A lot of people figure cash flow wrong. So we're gonna tell you exactly how. We're going to assume the rent is $1,500 a month. Now, how do you figure that out? You look on Zillow, Craigslist, Facebook, you talk to property managers, you just look at other properties for rent in your area, and that's part of your research. There's a lot that goes on into analyzing rental properties and figuring them out. We can't go over everything in this video, so we'll talk about a lot of it, but it's just impossible to talk about everything. Now, along with your rent, you'll most likely have a mortgage payment. So this is just your principal and taxes. We're gonna say it's in the range of $500 a month. We'll talk about how much we're buying this property for soon. But that's your principal and interest, and then you'll have property taxes on top of that. So property taxes might be, we're gonna say $150 a month, but that could range from $50 a month to $3,000, not $3,000 a month, but $1,000 a month in some areas. It's that massive of a difference. So be sure that you know what taxes are in your area. And you'll also have insurance. So if you get a loan on the property, your bank is gonna make you have insurance. That might be, we're gonna say $80 a month. Don't worry, I have a calculator so I won't mess this all up. All right, so now here is your basic cash flow, what it looks like on the surface. A lot of companies or people will tell you that's my cash flow after adding all this together, and it's sort of your cash flow. Not really, because you've got, what is that, 1,000, 850, 770, right? Did I even do that right? That's what your cash flow looks like without a lot of the expenses. There's many, many more expenses. So what we're forgetting about here is you've got, right over here, maintenance. While you own this house, it doesn't matter if it's brand new, has the most amazing tenants, at some point it will need some maintenance. After years of ownership, you'll need to paint it, you'll need to put in new flooring, you could have a disaster with tenants, which might happen, which probably will happen if you have enough rentals, where you have to remodel the whole property. Now you might not have that every month, you might have 5 years of amazing tenants, and then all of a sudden a $25,000 bill that makes up for all those great months. So you have to figure maintenance into your cash flow because you will be paying it at some point. Now, a lot of people will figure from 5 to 20% of your rents for maintenance. And this number varies so much because properties vary so much. A house 100 years old that's completely outdated is gonna have way more maintenance than a house that's 10 years old and is completely remodeled. So I have a chart on my site, investformore.com. I have a cash flow calculator that will help you figure that based on what your property is. But for now, we're gonna assume it's 10% is what we're gonna do. So we're adding this little $150 over here. And then we have vacancies over here. So not only will you have maintenance, you will have some months where it's not rented, right? You could have great tenants for 3 years, but they move out. Maybe you have to do some cleanup, some sprucing up. The house is vacant for 2 months. Or maybe you have to go through an eviction. The house is vacant for a few months and the tenants aren't paying. So those costs can come back as well, even though you won't have them every single month. Again, like 5 to 10% is a good figure there. We're gonna use 5 for this one, $75. So now we're adding another $225 into expenses. And now, well, we're down to still not too bad. What was that, $545? So that's a pretty decent cash flow. That's not bad for this property. You're making $500 a month. Now it's not gonna let you retire, but if you have 10 of them, it might be able to. If you have 20 or 30, it most certainly can put you on that route. However, is this the real cash flow? Well, we're still forgetting some things. This assumes I'm managing these properties myself. I did manage my properties myself until I had 7, and then it was just too much work. Mostly my wife told me it was too much work because I made her do all the work. But I did get a property manager, and from that point forward, it was so worth it because they're better at their job than I was, and I didn't have to do the work. You have to be tough to be a property manager. You have to charge late fees, you have to be on your tenants, or they will walk all over you. So, property management fees, well, I mean, that can be 8 to 10% too. So if that's another 10%, that's another $150. Now, we're down to, what is that, $395. Again, I hope I'm doing all my math right. Again, not horrible, not amazing. Now, depending on the type of property, you could have an HOA fee. You might be paying some of the utilities. If you have a fourplex, maybe you're paying for yard care or snow removal, or you're paying for water for everyone. All those expenses have to be accounted for and have to be included. But for right now, we're gonna just say our cash flow is $400 a month to make the math much easier. So bye-bye to all this. Cash flow, whoops, equals $400 a month. That's a good figure. That's a cool figure. But what does it actually mean, right? If you have a property you pay $500,000 for, that's probably not very good. But if you paid $50,000 for it, that's amazing. So how do we know if that's a good number? That's when I bring in the cash on cash return. So how do we figure that? Well, first we have to figure out how much money we invested into this property. I told you I'd tell you how much the property costs. Now we'll get into that. We're making numbers easy. We're assuming the property was $100,000 to purchase, and you put 20% down. Okay, that's $20,000 for the down payment. I told you I would make it easy on myself. We're gonna make it even easier on myself and cheat more. We're gonna say the seller paid all my closing costs because there might be $3,000 or $4,000 in closing costs, title fees, closing fees. The seller paid those. So this is the number we have into it. That's how I bought my first rental, by the way. It is possible to do it. Now, we're fixing up the house. We're buying a house that needs work. It needs $15,000 in work. I don't know why I circled that because it doesn't really make any sense, because now we have $35,000 into the property, and this is the one I should be circling instead. That's our investment. Again, this could be more or less. There could be some vacant months. We're gonna make it easy. We're just saying $35,000 is our investment into the property. So now you figure your cash on cash return. What is cash on cash return? To me, it is the cash you are bringing in every month, this cash flow number right here, divided by the cash you have invested into the property. So this is where I get my calculator, because I don't want to embarrass myself anymore in this video. And 400, I think I can do that one, times 12 is 4,800 divided by 35,000 gives us 13.7%. Again, that is 4,800, which is 400 times 12, because we want yearly numbers, divided by 35,000. And that gives us our cash on cash return. For me, this is me, I want this to be 15% or higher. When I was buying rental properties, that's what I always looked for. It can be lower, it doesn't have to be that high, or it can be higher. A lot of people shoot for 10%. There's all kinds of ways to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. But it's also important to know that is not our only return. This is just a cash on cash return. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try and keep some of this up here so we don't forget. 13.7, and then all this will go bye-bye. Okay, what else do we have to consider? Well, we've got that mortgage, right? We're paying $100,000 for the house. We have an $80,000 mortgage on the property. And my payment, by the way, when I use that $500 for principal and interest, I was just wildly guessing it's probably less than that on this mortgage, but just so you know when you're doing the figures, don't use that figure as a payment on that. Figure it out yourself. But you might be paying off $80 to $100 a month on the loan. So now you've got another $1,200 tacked on. You might have some tax advantages because you can depreciate a rental property over 27 and a half years. That might save you, again, I don't have these numbers, we're gonna use round numbers, $1,000 a month or $1,000 a year total. Plus the house might go up in value, right? So what if the house goes up in value 5%? Then all of a sudden, well, we're gonna have to get into this more soon, but we're gonna say the house is worth $150,000. I know, that doesn't match up with my stuff, but it'll make sense soon. 5% of that is what, $7,500? I did do that one in my head. So now we've got $7,500 we add on to here. Now all of a sudden we've got this, plus your 4,800 from up there. We're gonna get out the calculator again. 1,200 plus 1,000, I think I know what that answer is, plus 7,500 plus 4,800 equals 14,500. And we're gonna divide that by our 35,000 that we talked about earlier as our cash investment. Now we have, get this, 41% return, right? That's crazy. That's why rental properties are so awesome, because it's not just the cash flow, which is great. That's money going into your pocket, but you have amazing tax advantages. You're paying down your loan, and if the property goes up in value at all, you get a massive, look at that. This is like a, what is that? I have a calculator. 7,500 divided by 35,000. 21% just for the appreciation. But it only went up 5%. Yeah, but you only put $35,000 into it, not $100,000 or even $150,000, because you used leverage and you got an amazing deal, which is what we're talking about now. So I'm gonna put this 41% here as just kind of like the ROI, we'll call it the return on investment. And then we're gonna talk about buying below market value. Bullet point, okay. I told you the house is worth $150,000, but I also said we only paid $100,000 for it. So how does that work? Well, we got a really good deal. That's how it worked. So our house is actually worth $150,000 after we fix it up, because we said we spent $15,000 on repairs. So because it needs some work, because maybe it's a foreclosure or a short sale, or we're just really good at finding deals, we're able to buy this $150,000 house for $100,000. We spent $15,000 on repairs. So now we have basically $115,000 into the house. We don't count our down payment in this figure because that's already included in our $100,000 purchase price. But that's kind of our break even, what we have into the house at $115,000. That means we built $35,000 of equity by buying this property. Didn't have to wait 1 year for it to go up in value. We didn't have to do anything crazy with the repairs, mostly paint and carpet, but we built $35,000 as soon as it was fixed up. Crazy, right? Well, it's not that hard to do. This is real estate. You can do this all the time. We do it all the time. I know people who do it all the time. You don't even have to be a professional to do it. You can be a stockbroker, even though I don't like stocks as much, or you can be an accountant and do these things. So the trick, though, is knowing how all these numbers work and if this is a good rental property for you. For me, I think this would be a fantastic rental because even though the cash on cash return isn't that low, our ROI is crazy because we got this really good deal. And you're walking into this deal with equity. Now, later on down the road, if you want to refinance the property, you could do that. So we could refinance, what's 75% of 150,000 again? Oh, I'm pressing the wrong buttons. 1, 2, 3 times 0.75, 112,500. So let's say we own the property for a couple of years. Now we want to refinance it. It's still worth 150,000. You can get a loan at 75% loan to value. That's 112,500. Now you literally almost get back all of the money you spent on this property. Your down payment, the repairs you put into it. You'll have some closing costs. But still, you got almost all of your money back. You're still going to cash flow. You still have equity, and now you can go buy another property with that same amount of money. But really, the buying below market value is such a huge part of it. And a lot of people ask me, hey, what if I just buy rental properties at retail value with the cash flow? I'm like, that's great. You know, you're making a good return, but you're missing out on this sucker right here. And that is 100% return on your investment almost immediately. So now, I mean, your first year of owning this property, you have like 141% return, right? That will go down in subsequent years because this is a one-time advantage. It won't happen over and over again. But this gives you an idea of how good of a rental property this is. All right, so what have we talked about? Cash flow, cash on cash return, buying below market value. For me, I like buying everything at least 20% below market value. On most of my rentals I've bought, I could have flipped them if I wanted to, which usually means you're getting them 30% below market minus repairs. But I want great deals on them because I can refinance them later. If I ever get into trouble, they're easy to sell. I can sell them at a discount and still get my money back. It just makes everything work out well. It increases your cash flow because you're paying less, your loan is less, your mortgage payments are less. It's just a wonderful way to do things. So what are some other things to look at? Well, type of property. So we're analyzing if this is a good deal. What are some things to consider? Some things I like to consider: age, right? If it's a 100-year-old house and it hasn't been updated, I might spend $15,000 sprucing it up now, but I know I'm going to spend $50,000 in the next few years updating things, or it might not even be safe for renters. There might be electrical problems. I definitely don't want to kill anybody, that's for sure. So that's something to consider. And even a completely remodeled old house will usually have problems because you can't rebuild the whole thing. There's a better chance of foundation issues, insulation issues, asbestos issues, all kinds of things that can happen. So I'm not saying don't ever buy old properties, but for me, I like them to be in the 60s or 70s or newer, preferably the 80s, 90s, 2000s, but it's harder to find properties that'll give you this cash flow the nicer they are. So that makes it tricky. Something else to consider is, location. Is it in an area that's losing population? Is the workforce leaving? Is it depressed? That's something to consider because you're going to be holding these rentals for a while. So are things getting better or are they getting worse? If they're getting worse, you might consider not buying rentals in that area. Maybe you're okay with it, maybe not, but that's something to consider. And then finally, the remodel, right? We talked about a really easy remodel of $15,000 in work. That doesn't cover much, basic paint, carpet, maybe some fixtures. You can easily spend $30,000, $50,000, $70,000 on a massive remodel. Now all of a sudden, you know, instead of having $35,000 into the deal, you've got $100,000 into the deal. And all of these returns go way down because you have so much money invested. Now, some people are okay with that because maybe their plan is to refinance it. Do the BRRRR, the buy, repair, rent, refinance model. In that case, you're getting your money back out, but you know, there's some risk in that. It might not appraise for as much as you want. It's gonna take you some time to do the remodel. And with massive remodels, the bigger the remodel, the more that can go wrong, the more time it takes. And the whole time that remodel's happening, you're paying mortgage, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, those costs that your tenant would be paying that you're now paying. So the bigger the remodel, the more careful you have to be. When I'm flipping houses, I don't care about, well, I do care, but not as much about big, massive remodels. So I'll be selling the house and getting that money right back out as soon as I sell it. So with rentals, I want to be much more careful. I'm much more willing to buy a rental that doesn't need massive remodels because of those issues. All right, that is everything I want to cover in this video. I know we did talk about a lot. There's so much more we can talk about. A lot of my other videos do go into those details, as does my book as well. But this gives you an idea of how to calculate the rents, the cash flow, the cash on cash return, buying below market value, and the type of property. Now what you'll find a lot of times, I'm gonna get rid of these pretty numbers because those were nice, is your cash flow might be $100 a month, right? Especially in the market we're in today. Your cash on cash return might be 5%. Your total ROI might be 20%. You know, it's just not that great of a deal. Is that a good rental property? That all depends on you. That depends on your risk threshold, how much cash you have available. You know, if you don't have any cash and you're just skirting by on the bare minimum and something goes wrong, that $100 can turn into, you know, minus $800 pretty quick if you lose a tenant, and you could be in big trouble. So if you're gonna do these tight deals, it's usually best to have cash reserves, be prepared for the things that go wrong. Don't try and squeeze yourself into a deal if it's not good for you. Something else, the more expensive your market is, the harder it is to get cash flow. That's just usually how it is. The cheaper your market is, the easier it is to get cash flow. My sweet spot when I was buying rentals was almost from, when I was buying from 80 to 130. I'm in Colorado, I can't do that anymore. So that's why I switched to commercial properties. I could still get that cash flow. I could still add value, still get a great deal, and still have a cash on cash return that was fantastic. And even still buy cheap commercial properties too, or bigger ones in my market. So that's another video, the commercial analyzing. But this gives you an idea of how to analyze a rental property, what to look for, what to look out for, and how to really work the numbers so that while you think you're making $500 a month, your bank account says you're only making $100 a month or nothing. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you guys appreciate it. We'll have many more videos coming up soon. We've got 11 flips going right now. We have videos of those. New rental properties coming up soon, some crazy, creepy ones, and the one on the canyon that backs up to a river. So be on the lookout for those. We love new subscribers, so please subscribe if you have not. We love the thumbs up. That helps us out, and we love all the comments as well. Thanks a lot. We'll be back soon.